No, this is a movie, guys. Wow. Hey guys, my name is Nova, this is Film Express, and today we're going to be talking about the new Martin McDonagh movie, The Banshees of Inisherin. I have to say this, guys, right from the bat, this film really truly affected me, and it left such a big impression on me. I rushed home after the theater. I just got out of the movie. I rushed home to get this review done while the movie is still fresh in my mind. This is the type of film that I just wish more directors were able to make. This is what I expect from directors. This is what I expect from a good screenplay and a good story. And this executed on every single level. Martin McDonagh has to be in the top tier of screenwriters and directors working today. Every single one of his scripts has had incredible success. You know, whether it's Seven Psychopaths or In Bruges, which is a classic to this day, and Three Billboards, which won Academy Awards. Martin McDonagh is on fire, and everything he touches basically turns to gold. He has the cinematic Midas touch for sure, and Banshees is no different. I personally think this might be my favorite script of his. This might be my favorite film of his. Now, personally for me, In Bruges was his strongest film until now. Now that I've seen Banshees of Inisherin, this movie to me is the epitome of his work. It's his Magnum Opus, and it's one of the finest films of the year. I have no doubts that this film will be nominated for Best Screenplay this year at the Oscars again, and right now I think it might win. The Banshees of Inisherin is a very small, contained, focused film about two lifelong friends on this fictional island in Ireland called Inisherin. You know, these two friends spend every day at the pub together and so on and so forth, until one day one of the friends decides that he is done with the other. He ends the friendship right there, clean slate. He says he doesn't want to talk to him anymore. And while that sounds really sad, and don't get me wrong, this film is very bleak and sad, for the most part, this is one of the funniest films of the year, and at so many points throughout the film, the whole audience was cackling in laughter. I personally had some of my biggest laughs of the year with this movie since Triangle of Sadness. So for me, these two comedies are the two best of the year. While it being a very dark comedy about these two friends, there's also a very unique folklore, mythical element to this film. And I don't want to give too much away because none of this was really present in the trailers. But this kind of magical folklore mythical element adds so much to the movie. It made it almost feel like a poem, and to me that is why this film is one of the best scripts Martin McDonagh has ever written. One of the best aspects about this film is that it is set in the 1920s during the Irish Civil War, and it uses this setting as an allegory for our two characters, because while the Civil War is going on across the pond between North and South Ireland, there's a civil war going on in Inisherin between these two friends. So to me, a lot of reviews on YouTube actually failed to mention this, which is very surprising to me. It really seems that most people are seeing the film for surface level when it's truly a deeper metaphor for the Irish Civil War. And it executes that so flawlessly, to the point where, you know, if my history buffs will agree, the Irish Civil War almost started over nothing, and it was a very personal beef between the two sides, which is very much reflected and mirrored in the Banshees of Inisherin between Colin Farrell's character and Brendan Gleeson's character. In fact, you do learn a bit more about why Brendan Gleeson wants to end the friendship with Colin Farrell. He's at this point in his life where, you know, he realizes it isn't productive to be hanging out with his friend drinking all day, and he really wants to delve time into his music career and kind of leave a legacy behind because he's getting older and getting closer to death. While Colin Farrell, on the other hand, he just really wants people to be nice to each other, and he wants to be nice, and he's wondering why his friend is completely ignoring him. At first, he isn't sure if this is real or not, but very quickly into the film, you can see how real this is for Brendan Gleeson, and he wants nothing to do with Colin Farrell's character. What's interesting to me is that this film is something I relate to on a really personal level. Throughout my life, I've had so many friends, unfortunately, that we've had to grow apart. Whether it was us growing apart due to career goals, or whether it was differences of interest, or whether it was just somebody moving to a different state, city, country, anything. I've been through this exact type of scenario where one day one of my friends just decided, hey, I don't want to be your friend anymore. The way that this film explored that feeling was something that really hit home for me, and maybe that's another reason why I'm so personally attached to the story, is because I really felt for Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell brings such a human element to this film with his performance. You really feel for him, and you really just empathize for this guy who wants to keep his friendship together and is almost just toying with the idea that his friend doesn't really want to let go of him. But in reality, when he learns that that friendship is truly over, it really devastates him, and you almost see his life fall apart. And he does that in such a way where you can see this guy's transformation. It's such a well fleshed out character. It felt so real. That's a credit to Martin McDonagh's writing, where all the characters in this film feel so real, but Colin Farrell really brings that character to life in a way where I would personally say this is my favorite male performance of the year. I would nominate Colin Farrell for Best Actor, and I would make sure that he wins. It's crazy because to me, Colin Farrell has put out two of the best performances of the year so far. With Banshees and Batman, his Penguin was transformative. It was incredible. To see his acting chops kind of develop like this over the past few years, I have nothing but respect for Colin Farrell, and it was just incredible to see him in this movie. Now, not only Colin Farrell, but every other character in this film feels so real and three-dimensional and believable. And fantastic writing aside, Martin McDonagh really adds so much depth to these characters. Every single actor in this movie knocks it out of the park. So yes, Colin Farrell was fantastic. Brendan Gleeson is, as always, phenomenal, and I truly believed everything that happened in this film because these characters almost feel like real people. Barry Keoghan gives one of the best performances of the year for sure. He's always a very entertaining, charismatic, and creepy guy, in his performances, and he does that so well in this film. It was just a joy to see. Carrie Condon, she was in this film as well, and she gives such a phenomenal performance. She emotes incredibly well. She was so passionate, and I really felt every single delivery of every line. Martin McDonagh directs the heck out of this film. Absolutely. This is one of his best efforts in terms of directing. There's such a poetry and an elegance to the way things are directed and the way things unfold. I was completely engaged the whole time. And whether it cuts to these intense dialogue scenes, hilarious moments of comedy, or transition scenes with beautiful camera work and landscape shots, everything felt purposeful and everything worked, at least for me. There are some shots in this film that just feel super iconic as well. There's one in the trailer actually where Brendan Gleeson is in a confession booth with the priest and the cross is like reflected onto the priest's face. That is just a beautiful, deep image. If you guys know anything about Martin Scorsese, years and years ago, he said something along the lines of, directors these days, they are not focused as much on metaphorical, deep imagery. Well, Martin McDonagh here is proving that he's one of those directors that is capable of this. Now, I can't sugarcoat this at all. In the last half of the film does get incredibly bleak and dark and grim, but all of that is something that feels completely earned and justified within the story. There's a bit of violence and there's a lot of really dark ideas, matters of life and death to a point, All of that in the story just feels like a perfect snowball effect from everything that has been set up before. I was incredibly enamored by this story. My eyes were glued to the screen the whole time. And to think that such a personal story also serves as a bigger allegory for the Irish Civil War, to me, that's exactly what I expect from a writer working these days at that level in Hollywood. Allegorical writing, metaphorical writing is something that is very present in novels, and it's not so much evident in cinema, especially mainstream cinema, What Martin McDonagh brings to the table with Banshees of Inisherin is incredibly impressive. It's very sharply written, and it might actually win Best Screenplay this year. I have full faith that the Academy is going to love this film. Absolutely. It's right up their alley. It's right up my alley, and I'm actually looking forward to watching this movie again. One thing I truly loved about the film is that, yes, the journey is fantastic, the themes and the metaphors are beautiful. All of that really has to stick the landing for it to work, and the ending of this film is just a pure masterclass of poetic justice. I haven't seen anything this year that has affected me personally on the level that the Banshees of Inisherin has, only because of what I mentioned and how I relate to the story, and I've almost been through this a handful of times in my life, and even almost recently with one of my friends, we had a bit of a falling out. And what's interesting about this film is that you get both sides of the personality and the dichotomy of this. You have the one character who is ready to burn ties with someone, burn a bridge, and avoid conflict completely, selfishly focusing on his own goals. And you have the other friend who's very confrontational, wants to keep the friendship together, and will whatever it takes to get the answer. To me, that's again, very beautifully written, very sharp and incredible filmmaking. So guys, I really have to say it, The Banshees of Inisherin is one of the best films of the year. I give this a 4.5 out of 5. It's like a 9 out of 10 film. And it's something that I really can't wait to see again, and I have full faith in the Oscar run for this film. Guys, this is Film Express. That's my review of The Banshees of Inisherin. Please like, please subscribe, it would help the channel so much. Please write some comments if you guys have seen it or if you look forward to this film. I look forward to engaging with you all. This is Nova. I'll catch you guys later. See ya.